Hello, good morning, it's Fiona here. So are you wanting to give up sugar? Have you decided that you would go sugar-free for a little while, which would mean no cakes, no sugar, no soda. There's a whole list of sugars, and not just talking about gluten-free, but actually all the sugars that spark the insulin in your body, which makes your body hold on to fat. Now, it can take 3 days to actually break a sugar habit, or any kind of habit for that matter, any kind of craving, any kind of need for the body to hold on, or to crave food and make you demand that you go and eat some of this food. Now, it can take 3 days. It takes just 3 days, and I've seen it on retreats when people have done a fast with me and a detox. After 3 days, it's kind of like, my taste buds have changed. I don't need to do that anymore. So on a physical level, we can break all those cravings in just 3 days. It takes a little bit longer to train your brain to, and your body to trust you, that there are several different things that go on here. So it takes a little bit longer for your brain to actually trust you that you are actually going to give it fuel. And it takes a little bit longer for your body to trust you that you're actually going to eat properly and not go into starvation mode. Because if you go into starvation mode, believe me, there's something that happens in your body that not very many people are talking about. And she really gets quite frightened. And she'll kind of go, no food's coming in. I haven't got the normal food that I'm used to coming in. Your gut bacteria protests, and it makes you kind of gassy and bloated, especially if you're not eating the sugars that she's used to eating. So there are a lot of different things that we need to kind of look at, rather than just saying, right, that's it, I'm done with sugar, going to break up with it, not going to eat sugar anymore. Doesn't do me any good, doesn't do me any favors. I don't like the way it's reacting on my body, and I don't like my energy when I'm in sugar. I'm not going to do it anymore. I understand that on a decision basis, but there's a few different things that you need to put in place to make sure that you don't go back to craving it. I've seen ladies who've come on retreats and they've done really well when they've been out of their normal routine, away from their family, their partners, their work, and all the rest of it. Not a problem, because they're not being triggered in the normal way, so the brain doesn't respond. It takes a little bit longer, like I said, to dissolve your cravings for sugar on a mental and an emotional basis. Now, the bad thing is when we stop eating sugar, when we stop putting that kind of fuel into our body doesn't have the energy that it normally burns from the sugar. Now, the sugar normally turns into a fuel in our cells. She stores it in our cells, and that's where she thinks she can access it later. Well, if I need it, I can go there. Especially if we've eaten excessive sugar and we haven't been able to burn it up, it's going to lay on the body. So what are sugars? So sugars for me would be everything that's sweet. Okay, so we can talk about cake and biscuits and cookies, even fruit. But have you thought that sugars also quantify as potatoes, starchy rice, and anything that is a carbohydrate is a sugar? So if you're eating pizza, if you're eating bread, even breadsticks and crisps, which was my huge craving for a very long time, the sort of salt and the sugar of the potatoes and the crisps, oh my God, beautiful. But I had to understand why I was doing that. So as much as I would say, that's it, not eating the crisps anymore, there was something else going on that made it absolutely impossible for me not to dive into the crisps when I felt that I was being triggered, but I had to work out what that trigger was. So it's not good to go cold turkey unless you have the backup, unless you know what's going on and you have the support that takes you through, so that you're putting in a different fuel system for yourself. So if your body's feeling, gosh, I don't have any fuel at the moment, there's a part of your brain, your reptile brain, which basically goes back to caveman days, the beginning of humanity, since we were very first created. The reptile brain is there to support you. It is there to protect you. It is there to make you survive. As soon as you take something away and you go into survival mode, so starvation mode, I should say, your reptile brain responds and she says, oh my God, we haven't got any fuel coming in. I have to store everything. And it converts everything that you eat and makes you crave more of the fuel that you haven't been putting in. So that's why it's impossible to kind of stop doing sugar cold turkey. You need to be able to have the support. You need to be able to see what's going on behind the scenes. You need to be able to be putting in the things that makes your body turn to another source of energy. So you think you can do it alone and you can force yourself, but what happens is when we force ourselves, we're taking our body into panic, we're taking our body into stress, we're taking our body into deadlines. You'll see that you're doing a lot of these things every single day. You know, the stress, the deadlines, the panic, the fear. So this is how your body naturally responds. Again, going to the reptile brain. What happens when our body is terrified, when she feels that she's being forced to doing something, when she's going into a corner? She comes out either fighting or frighting. So she has the response. It's the reptile brain. We need to rewire the reptile brain. She has the response that says, shit, I'm going to have to fight here. I'm going to have to, fight against what's going on here and what I've been forced to kind of do. And it's a lot of willpower and it's a lot of effort. And in your body, you will get to know what that feels like. It's a real burning sensation inside your body that's like, oh, this isn't working for me. I'm going to have to stand up and fight now. And when she's doing that, again, the body is storing extra fuel and making you crave extra fuel. There's a lot that goes on in the background that maybe you don't understand when you go cold turkey and think you can break out of the sugar habits and all the rest of it. That's why diets can't last normally longer than 3 days. Then you start cheating 2 weeks and then you just think, oh hell, just give up. I mean, I've had a bad day today and I need some sugar. I need something of what really makes me feel better in the evening. And that's why it's called comfort eating. There's an awful lot of things that are meshed in with just giving up sugar. So one of the other things is that you don't actually have any sweetness in your life. Sugar, when you crave sugar, one of the reasons is that you really lack the nice things and the sweet things and just don't even see them. Even if you do have sweet things in your life, maybe they just pass you by and you don't pay attention to them. So where's the sweetness in your life? If you could cut out sugar, and if you could still have sweetness in your life, many ladies say to me, how long do I need to give up sugar? When can I start eating sugar again? Well, you can, but there are certain things you need to be able to do. You need to be able to rewire your brain, rewire your reptile brain, so that she is not panicking and going into fear and going into, oh my God, we're starving. I need to protect you. Come, let's hoard and store and crave as much fuel as possible. We also need to be able to put in the fuel that your body will work far better on, and it is not sugar as fuel that 99% of the ladies I work with, and we have like a way of deciphering that, deciding what kind of symptoms you have and what kind of fuel would be best for you. Getting support, because you really need to see how you can perceive certain situations in a different way so that you are no longer doing things and responding to things in the same way. What if you could just kind of go, well, that was a breeze. I dealt with that today. I didn't have to respond the normal way that I do. She came at me with daggers and I held my own. I responded. I was calm. And I didn't go into that fight and flight mode. Her bad behavior, her judgment of me, the criticism, my need to kind of stand up for myself and fight, it just wasn't there. What if you could be in that particular state? Then you wouldn't have to crave the sugar anymore because your reptile brain is not being activated. I hope this is helpful. This is just here to show you that there are other things going on behind the scenes. So Sherry She came to me on a retreat. She lost 10 pounds in a week, like a whole dress size, 5 kilos. There wasn't any temptation when we were here, but she also wasn't being triggered. Nobody was criticizing her. Nobody had bad behavior. Nobody was judging her or anything else. So she was completely and utterly chilled out, relaxed, reptile brain, not being triggered. She wanted to continue that when she went home. She wanted to carry on with the weight loss that she'd had, dropping the dress sizes. She went home. Kids needed so much from her, so much of her attention. Partner wanted so much more of attention. Her mother wanted more attention from her. Can you do this? Can you do that? Went back to work. Ding, 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 ding. All these things that hadn't been done while she was away. She ended up little stress bunny all over again. And of course, the symptoms came back. The cravings came back because her reptile brain was kind of saying, we need more fuel. We need more fuel to get us through the day. Oh my God, what are we doing here? I struggled so badly with going feast or famine, stopping eating food, thinking, God, that doesn't make any difference. Starting eating the food again, God, that didn't make any difference either. It wasn't until that I realized I really wasn't coping very well with how many people wanted something from me and how I felt that, well, I'll just do that and then they'll be happy and then I'll be happy and I'll just do that and then, well, that'll be sorted and their problems will be sorted out and that'll make my life much easier because they just won't need so much from me anymore. Well, if I just do this, maybe they'll give me a little bit of peace and quiet and all the things to do with work, all the things. Maybe if I deal with all of those, then once that's dealt with, then I'll be able to relax. But even when I was on holiday, I couldn't really relax because I was always the one who was needed. I was indispensable. So that had to change. I had to take charge of me, get in control of me so that I wasn't putting myself last on the list. Now, that's just one of the things that I had to be able to do to become so much stronger on the inside so that I wasn't being pushed and pulled by everybody else around me. So what's turning up for you that makes you crave the sugar? And how are you going to stop re-eating the sugar so that you can actually drop the dress sizes in a very short space of time? It's totally possible, but you really need to not be influenced and affected by the judgments, the criticism, the deadlines, the panic, the stress, the stories, the dramas that we get ourselves involved with. If we don't respond to those and get activated and triggered by those, we will stay so much calmer, so much stronger on the inside. Our reptile brain will not be triggered to save you and to store and to hoard the fuel, the energy in the fat cells. Again, I hope this has been helpful because you need to understand that there is just something going on that needs to be rewired. If we could rewire your brain so that that wasn't happening. And that's why I'm doing the 7-day sugar-free eating challenge, because you really need to see what's going on and when you're triggered, so that even if you stop the fuel going in, 1, you've got a different fuel source. 2, you're looking at things in a different way. 3, you're still putting sweetness into your life so that you matter, so that starting taking care of you. That is when you can stop eating all the junk food and stop eating quite so much. And that's when you will drop the dress sizes. There's a meeting here. There's a meeting of the mind. There's a meeting of the body. And it's being able to understand what's going on below the surface. There are misconceptions that it only has to be to nutrition. It only has to be with, well, I'll stop eating that and, well, I'm sure I'll lose weight. Or I'll stop drinking alcohol and then I'm sure I'll lose weight. It doesn't quite work like that. 3 days to break a physical craving. Yet it takes a little bit longer to dissolve the mental calling and need for the sugar. Be that from the fuel that you need and getting your reptile brain to trust you that you are actually going to eat properly. And that can take, depending on you, depending how many years you've been dieting, depending how many years you've been starving yourself, just a little bit longer. Come and join in on the 7-day sugar-free eating challenge, and you'll get to understand what's going on and how you can rewire your brain and give yourself a different fuel system. Every day we'll be looking at a different aspect on how going sugar-free can be so much easier for you. Again, Jenna Robertson, Body Whisperer, Body Renewer, helping you understand what's going on in your body.